It's like catching lightning in a bottle. That's what experts at Indiana University say about the major impact Taylor Swift's Eras Tour will have on Indianapolis. There is a significant amount of damage here in Winchester. I'm standing in front of what used to be a Taco Bell behind the street from me here. We have talked to people that have been on the ground here all night. They say the Taco Bell is completely gone. People are still holding on to hope. Destiny Wells, running for Attorney General, is the only statewide race that hasn't been called.
Having two camps in the Republican Party right now affected the 2022 election and maybe less of a red wave than people had expected.
Well, Danielle, when I look at the results of the midterm elections.
Let's take a look at what it has to offer. It spans 24 miles and starts over here on the west side of town at the airport, then runs through the near west, downtown, historic east, and Cumberland areas along Washington Street. Keep Indianapolis Beautiful has been keeping the city cleaner and greener for the last 50 years, but the recent loss of a grant is going to slow their progress. This is a police shooting. I'm going to get right out of the way here, give you a look. We are at 16th and Meridian at this CVS. The primary scene seems to be in the drive-thru. Despite running after Council President Vop Osili, he did not take questions after the meeting. Why did you vote to remove Jesse Brown from the caucus? Why did you vote to remove him? You're a coward. While that draft is happening in New York, it really feels like Indianapolis is the center of the universe for women's basketball. Hoosiers have been dealing with the aftermath of Hurricane Helene with strong winds and rain in Indiana, but this is nothing compared to those who lived through the storm at its strongest. An off-duty IMPD officer held the suspect at gunpoint in the parking lot until other law enforcement arrived. Now that happened in the parking lot behind me here. This will just allow IMPD another tool to help get kids off the streets after the last 3 weekends of violence in Indianapolis. Each of the Hoosiers I spoke to today had a different story. 2 were on vacation and rode out the storm. Another was a mother living in Florida without the means to evacuate. You heard from her a day before the storm. All are fine now, but still shaken up. Normally, if I would hold this up to the sun, we'll have you take a look here, you would see circles come through. But because the sun is partially obscured at this point, you're just seeing crescent moons. This is just showing you just how little of the sun is left in the sky. Jesse Brown's supporters are fighting back after learning he was removed from the Democratic Caucus last night. We brought you that news first on News 8 at 10. Jesse Brown represents District 13 on the Near East Side of Indianapolis. He says his removal from the Democratic Caucus disenfranchises his constituents. His wife, Mary Kate Dugan, agrees.
It makes me really sad and angry to see that our district, District 13, has not been given the same representation as the other districts. It's not fair.
Brown says 13 Democrats voted to remove him. They are Maggie Lewis, Carlos Perkins, Leroy Robinson, Vop Osili, Frank Mascari, Andy Nielsen, Nick Roberts, Allie Brown, Breanne Delaney, Keith Graves, John Barth, Rena Allen, and Ron Gibson. Brown says removal from the caucus means he will no longer receive closed-door briefings from the Hogsett administration or be in the room to discuss matters with colleagues before council meetings. Brown says it is unfair that he only has 3 committee assignments when other freshman counselors have 6.
We want him to be appointed to 6 committees to give our district equal representation to every other area of the city.
On Tuesday morning, Brown shared his concern that he would be stripped of his committee appointments too. This did not happen at Tuesday's heated Committee on Committees meeting, but instead routine business took place. This did not stop supporters from flooding the meeting. Despite running after Council President Vop Osili, he did not take questions after the meeting. Why did you vote to remove Jesse Brown from the caucus? Why did you vote to remove him? You're a coward! Republican Minority Leader Michael Paul Hart spoke briefly after the meeting.
That's their actions, that's their decisions. I don't know what their relationships are internally, so they made their decisions and they'll continue to move forward with their decision.
I also tried to speak to Keith Graves, who voted to remove Brown at an Education Committee meeting.
Do you want to do an interview about Jesse Brown?
No.
John Barth, Carlos Perkins, and Leroy Robinson did not attend this Education Committee meeting after voting to remove Brown on Monday night. Brown says he plans to fight this removal so the people of District 13 have fair representation. He is still a voting member of the City County Council and the committees he sits on. I'm Danielle Zulkosky for Wish TV, wishtv.com, and follow us on Facebook for updates. Those pro-Palestine protesters were arrested earlier this afternoon, and after speaking with multiple law enforcement agencies here in Bloomington, we can tell you that was because they refused to remove structures like tents and canopies from their protest, which violates IU policy. Now, those pro-Palestine protesters started in the morning in Dunn Meadow across the street from the building labeled Shabbat on campus. By 4 p.m., 33 people were arrested by Indiana University Police and Indiana State Police over the tents. Monroe County Sheriff's Office processed all of the arrested individuals. That office says most were charged with criminal trespassing or resisting arrest. Some were charged with both. Just one was charged with a felony, battery on a police officer, and that's also according to the Sheriff's Office. IU police sent a news release to News 8. It said protesters were permitted to stay only if the tents and canopies came down. When they did not, the protesters were arrested. Protesters say the goal is to draw attention to Palestine. When News 8 went to the jail, the first protester was being released. He says they were not read their Miranda rights.
We were taken from Dunn Meadow at around 4. We didn't get to the county building until around 7. So there was a long period of time where we were essentially hostages in the indoor field house. We didn't know what we were being charged for. We were just told that we were arrested. We weren't being read our rights. This is a small price to pay for the solidarity of the Gazan people and the Palestinian people who are suffering a lot more than I am.
Goals would be free Palestine. That's the main goal. That's the goal I'm plugged into. I'm not even fully educated on the topic. It's just pretty obvious which side is the right side to be on.
A small group of counter-protesters holding Israeli flags mostly stayed up on the hill of the pro-Palestine protesters.
I saw what was happening, and my whole community came out just to be together and to show our support for our community and to show love. I think it shows just the ignorance of other people, and they're doing a seder right now, and I'm not quite sure. I can't really hear what they're saying, but there's a lot of ignorance.
And in a statement from Indiana University, a spokesperson said in part, to ensure the safety and security of the IU community and to avoid disruption of university operations, expressive activity must be conducted in accordance with university free speech and event policies. When we went to the jail, the Monroe County Sheriff's Office was still processing some of those protesters. Those that had been released were given court dates. I'm Danielle Zulkosky for Wish TV, wishtv.com, and follow us on Facebook for updates. This is a story straight out of a movie. A young woman alone in Florida after just moving there from Indiana 2 months ago. Stranded and desperate to get home and see her sick mother in the hospital. In the chaos of the airport, amid a canceled flight, she found her saviors, a family of Hoosiers who knew they were there that day to offer her a ride home and make sure she saw her mom.
There are still blessings out there. Like, there are people that are willing to go above and beyond. And especially, it meant the world to my mom.
Jessica Roberts was alone in the airport, trying to figure out how she could get home to see her mom. Already in the hospital for over a month, Roberts was going to start driving herself in an old car when Billy Hill, his daughter Brittany Sibbing, and grandson stepped in.
I said, I know you don't know us. I said, I promise we're not crazy. I said, but you can ride back with us. Yeah. I was like, we're going to Indiana too, you know? And she was like, oh my gosh. She was like, you guys would let me ride with you? Like, you know.
Complete strangers when they got to the airport, and as good as family when they left.
They were like, yeah.
You don't even know me. I know we're all from Indiana. We're trying to get out here. We're trying to get the same place. It was like God was kind of telling us, hey, you need to intercede for this girl too, help her out. She's in the same situation. And it's like my daughter.
For Roberts, this trip was not just to see her mom. She was originally coming home for the 1-year celebration of life for her boyfriend who died last year. She felt he was with her for the entire journey.
I think he truly wanted me here. I think that's a big sign. Big sign.
Roberts says Florida was her fresh start after a tough year, and this 21-hour car ride became the blessing that showed her there's still good in the world.
There are people going out of their way, to make sure people are safe.
Billy and Jessica don't know what will be left when they return to Florida, but they know they have each other and can count on one another as family. I'm Danielle Zulkosky for Wish TV, wishtv.com, and follow us on Facebook for updates.